Welcome to Building Healthy Relationships, the 4 Habits podcast, helping you enjoy better harmony at home, thrive at work, and win at life. Here are your hosts, Dr. Andrea and Jon Taylor-Cummings, recognized authorities on the subjects of improving work relationships and cultures, as well as couple and home relationships.
Welcome. This is podcast episode 9.
And today, wow.
Yeah, today we're going to start with a question. And the question is, would you like more warmth and less frustration in all your relationships?
There's a question.
We can just imagine everybody nodding and saying, yes.
Yes, please.
Yes, please. And the question is, how do we do it? And a lot of us think we're doing it, but not really getting the results. So how do we do it better? And that's the conversation today, where we'll be sharing with you a technique that we found to be amazing in helping to improve warmth. So if you want to know more about that, stick around. That's what we're covering.
Absolutely. It's a great question, and one that it's on the front of everybody's mind. I want this thing better. How do I get that? Well, we would say it always takes 2 to tango. You never see somebody tangoing on their own. That would look pretty odd. It always takes two to tango. The challenge is when we see things going wrong in relationships, we generally assume I had nothing to do with this. It's always the other person's fault.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong. We're not blaming the other person. We're not excusing the other person, I should say,
Correct.
for bad behavior. We're certainly not excusing that. If they've done something wrong, they behaved, responded badly, they need to take responsibility for that. But generally, the feeling in the relationship, the warmth, if they're not in a good place, chances are they're not going to respond well.
That's so true. And in the moment, it's so easy to say, well, they need to get better in their behavior.
Yeah.
But we really need to remember as much as possible that the only person we have control over, the only behavior that we control is our own.
Yeah.
So what if in that moment of feeling frustrated with the other person, you could help them move into a better place?
Absolutely.
Help them become less frustrated or less angry, or to feel less insecure, or to feel more supported or more appreciated in the moment. What if we could help them get into a better place? And the thing is, we're probably thinking, but I'm doing that already. I'm doing what I can to make them feel loved and make them feel appreciated or make them feel valued. And we don't doubt that. Of course you are. We all would be trying to do that. But we can help you understand how to make that land powerfully in a way that will calm ruffled feathers, help people just getting to a better place so you can have a better conversation, inject more warmth into the situation straight away, and then do it on an ongoing basis to keep the relationship warm and healthy. And that's the world of love languages. So that's what we're going to be talking about. And love languages was researched and introduced by Dr. Gary Chapman for over 25 years now.
Absolutely.
I think he celebrated 25 years of the book.
A few years ago when we went to the launch or the
pre-COVID
anniversary of that, I should say.
So we're probably pushing 30 years of this information being out there, but still so many people haven't heard about it. So we want to take you on that journey, help you understand what love languages are. And essentially, it is recognizing that each of us feels most loved, most valued, most appreciated in one of 5 key ways. That's one of those 5 key ways would be love's loudest language for us. And if we each learned the other person's love language, in the relationships that are important to us, if we learned what spoke love or value or appreciation to them most loudly and did that, we would get so much more impact in creating warmth, rapport, less angst, less frustration in the relationship if we knew how to do that well.
Absolutely. And it's worth noting actually that this applies to all relationships.
Yeah.
So Andrew's spoken so far about the love languages, which are key. Gary Chapman did some work a while ago now. It's probably
2012 probably.
2012, I think it was probably about
Paula
then.
White.
Yeah. Showing how these love languages actually apply in the workplace as well. Now, you may be thinking, hang on a second, why am I showing love in a workplace? Okay, hold on. Now, he called them appreciation languages in a workplace.
Same thing, though.
So it's the same underlying principles, but it's about how do you make people feel valued, feel appreciated, feel like there's a reason why they're there, and they're contributing to the environment. They're not just dead weight sitting there and you don't really value them.
Yeah.
So these appreciation languages apply in the workplace. They apply to your kids. They apply to your friends you hang out with. They literally apply in all relationships. And it really comes down to making people feel special, feel like that you value them being around. There's a reason why they're around. And that's what really fuels people.
And if you think about it, one of the McKinsey researchers, we probably mentioned this on another podcast, the two key reasons why people are leaving jobs. The number one is that they don't feel valued. Number two is, not getting work-life balance right. But this sense of feeling valued and appreciated is even more important now as we've moved to more hybrid, flexible working.
Yeah.
So if somebody's not sitting next door to, at the next desk, or somebody, you're not bumping into each other in the coffee area, lunch area, the opportunities to say well done or show in some way that you appreciate and value them, they're lessened. And we need to be that much more intentional about communicating value and appreciation to everybody, but especially people who really matter to us. And when we want to do it with colleagues and so on, if they're not visible, to know how to do that in a way that gives you the most results for your efforts. So why don't you take us through the five?
Absolutely. I'll just come to that in just one second. But just in terms of understanding where this sits in some of the stuff that we share, if you've listened to one of our earlier podcasts, you'd have heard us talk about the emotional bank account and just how important that is. And what this does is, speaking somebody's love language or their appreciation language helps you absolutely make deposits into their emotional bank account. This is a fantastic way to get that balance in their emotional bank account back up into positive territory. And when their emotional bank account is in positive territory, they are much more likely to respond better to you. So if that relationship, your relationship, is feeling scratchy, it's feeling like just not in a good place, everything you say, they snap back at you and they're just giving you negative vibes, shall we say, your note to self should be, their emotional bank account is not in a good place. What can you be doing to get it back up into a positive place, make some more deposits? And actually speaking their love or their appreciation language is a fantastic way to get them into a better place. Start making some deposits on purpose.
And just to tie that into how we talk about the 4 habits, love languages or appreciation languages is one of the tools and techniques that we talk about in habit number 4. Connect before you correct, because it's a powerful way for building warmth, rapport, and connection in relationships. So how about telling us now,
let us
what
get
are the 5?
get to the 5.
Give us the overview.
Any more cues we need to get? No, we won't hold you in suspense anymore. Let's get to the 5. So the 5 ways in which people feel valued, appreciated, loved, special are words, touch, quality time, acts of service, and gifts. Those are the 5. Now, what's really interesting is we all speak our mother tongue, as Gary Chapman helps us understand. We all speak our own mother tongue, and we don't speak other people's mother tongues. At least not many of us. A lot of us are, what's the word? Not bilingual, unilingual, I guess. We speak our mother tongue, and we're really fluent in that. We're really good at that, but we're not so good at speaking other people's languages. And we forget that actually they have a different.
Quite often. So what we've seen is when you're in a relationship with a partner or a spouse, with your children, with the people around you in the office, usually...
Well, if the relationship is feeling scratchy, a good sign is they've probably got different appreciation or love languages and they're not feeling particularly valued.
But usually when we do the workshops or when we talk with couples, we find that it's almost like default. People have very different love or appreciation languages. And what actually happens is we're exhausting ourselves trying to communicate value, love, appreciation in the way that it speaks most loudly to us, but we emotionally miss each other because it's just not landing with the other person, certainly not as powerfully as we think it should land, because it lands that powerfully with us. And so understanding love languages can absolutely help reduce frustration and misunderstanding so that you can communicate the message of value and appreciation in a way that makes sense to the other person, even if it's not the language that would speak most loudly to you.
Well, like I say, a big cue or a big note to self should be, if the relationship feels scratchy, one thing you should be checking. It may not be this. It's not this every single. Of course, not every time, but more often than not, a big part of it is the other person is just not feeling valued or appreciated or loved or special. So you should be checking if the relationship feels scratchy. just check in with yourself, think, maybe their appreciation or love language is not being spoken, or at least it might be being spoken. We'll talk about that more in a moment, but it's not being heard by them.
Yeah.
And if it's not being heard by them, you're wasting your time. So you really need to be learning what their language is and speaking that. So why don't we run through them?
Well, yeah, one more point to make there,
Go on, then.
it just came to mind, is this is so powerful with teenagers as they go
yeah.
through the years of, half adult, half child, lots of emotional or hormonal changes that come up, your words come out wrong. One of the ways to get to keep the connection really strong is to understand what speaks love and value and appreciation to them most loudly, and be intentional about doing that so that you can keep the connection as strong as possible.
No.
Okay, so now shall we go into
well,
it?
we said what the 5 are. Let's go into them. What order should we do them? So
how about this? I have an idea. So because we don't naturally speak each other's love language, and you'll hear more about that in a bit, how about I do yours, you do mine, and then we'll cover the fifth.
Okay. We'll share what we've learned about each other's. There you go. That's keeping it real. Not me speaking my own language, what I've learned about Andrea. So, okay, so what are they? So of the 5. So let's start with words.
Yeah.
Because words is very much Andrea's appreciation language. She likes good words, complimentary words. She'll never have enough of me saying, you look good, that was great, you did a great job. If I ask her that, if I say that, usually she'll say, if I say to her, you look good, she'll say, oh, why? Tell me, why do I look good? She's really looking for me to unpack that a bit more. Tell her exactly why she looks good. Why do I think she looks good? It's not just a throwaway comment. I don't just say, that was great.
It has to be genuine.
It has to be genuine, and she wants to know why. So she's unpacking that. Whereas on the flip side, for somebody who's not a words person like myself, words like that, if you praising me and giving me that kind of positive affirmation in that context, I'm thinking, hang on, is there something wrong here? Do you want something from me? I get suspicious. Do you want something from me? Is this genuine? It doesn't land as well with me.
Yeah. I was going to say, for words people, words, genuine words, that is, are literally the wind beneath our wings. It lifts us, makes us fly, because the power, that proverb, life and death are in the power of the tongue. That is so true for words people. Yeah.
And there's no substitute for giving them positive words. They really need that. And really, really importantly, because words are so important to words people, the flip side, negative words are super damaging to them, super hurtful.
Harsh criticism,
any words, doubly bad. It's like a double whammy.
Yeah.
So one, because they're not getting the positive words that they enjoy and they need for the fuel, but now they're getting negative words. It's like, oh, wow, that's a double whammy. It really can be crushing to them. Now, if you're not a words person, you won't understand this, because you're like, it's just words. Words don't mean anything.
Water off a duck's back.
Well, exactly. What they say, the people who would say sticks and stones can hurt my bones, but words would never harm me. They ain't words people.
You never get a words person.
Words people would never say things like that, because words can be, they understand the real power of words. That's unfair to put it that way. For them, words have a real impact.
Yeah.
They
land powerfully. Absolutely.
They land powerfully with them.
Love's loudest language for words people is words, either said or written. Yeah. Absolutely.
And again, don't get us wrong. Everybody appreciates, well done, done a good job, etc. But for words people, it's that extra fuel. It's oxygen. They need that oxygen. They breathe. They live on that.
Yeah.
It really fuels them.
And I know that we're doing a podcast that covers both harmony at home and thriving at work, but you can use the words "I love you" on show.
Can I? Can I? Well, I do. I do love you.
Oh, there you go. See.
Go on, what's the next question?
Wait.
Why? Tell me. Okay.
So it's a words absolutely matter, and be careful about the words that we use, especially for people who have words as their most powerful love language. We need to be intentional about the good ones and really, really careful about criticism. So the next one, then, I'll do quality time, which is
That's absolutely one of mine.
Right
up there.
Top ones. And for quality time people, love is spelt Time. And it's not just about passing time around each other. It's about being really present, that undivided attention. And one of the ways that I discovered just how important this was is the frustration that I'd sensed from you when we were driving on a long journey.
Oh,
And,
yes, I remember.
sometimes on a long journey, John will be driving. And before knowing the impact of all this stuff with love languages, I would use the time to check emails or check social media or make phone calls. And he would get upset in a way that I just couldn't understand what was going on. But the message that I was delivering was that here we are together in the car, great quality time for John, opportunity to spend time together and really feed his emotional bank account by being present and enjoying great conversation. But I was giving that attention to everybody else. So it felt like everybody else was more important than him. And the frustration would just mount until we were able to talk about what it felt like for John with me being on the phone. So I've learned that being present, spending one-on-one time together is really important. And even doing things that I know you like, if you're working on some DIY thing, just being there and holding the flashlight or helping to get
doing
stuff
things together.
just to do things together.
Absolutely.
It's important to you,
Absolutely.
which is really kind of sweet.
Yeah.
But but I need to be more intentional about being present and definitely not giving the wrong message by giving other people attention and not giving that to you.
That point about the other people attention is a really important one for a quality time person, especially in this day of mobile phones and laptops and tablets, all the distractions out there. Because the moment that phone pings and we're in a conversation together, and that moment that phone pings and you're like, okay, I need to take this. If it's an important call, of course we get it.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't be that just because it's pinged, that's more important than me.
Yeah.
One of my big frustrations is you could be in a shop.
Yeah.
You're buying something in a store and you get to the checkout and you've been waiting in line to buy something, and the phone rings and they pick up the phone and they say, can you just wait for a minute? I'm like, who's more important here? Just because the phone is rung, are they more important than me?
Yeah.
That's exactly the same message that you're communicating.
Yeah.
Just because this phone has pinged or dinged, it could be some ridiculously random alert.
Yeah.
Why is that more important than me and the conversation that we're having?
Yeah.
Now, of course, there are important things that could be coming through. You could be getting a really important call or whatever. But just manage it around that.
The habit of being fully present.
Yeah, habit of being fully present. If you're expecting a special, an important message to come through, tee it up. There could be a call coming through that I'm expecting. If it does come through, I might need to take it. All that kind of stuff sets the expectations in advance. Otherwise, you're communicating the message that every ping or ding that comes up on that phone is more important than you. Sorry, I just need to keep looking at my phone all the time.
Yeah.
It's not a great message to be on the receiving end of that.
And the key thing for quality time, people were saying, is wherever you are with them, be there. Be fully there. Be fully present. And of course, if you're a manager and you've booked a meeting with a quality time person, be very, very careful if you need to cancel it. Firstly, don't cancel it. Keep it. Because if quality time is important to them, and we'll get onto this, but they'll be the ones who will always want to have that one-on-one meeting. So if you have to cancel it, communicate the reason why you had no choice, and make sure to rebook it. Otherwise, the message you'll be giving is they're not important and everything else you had to do is more important than them. So really, really important to understand quality time as a loud language of love, value, and appreciation for some people.
Yeah,
and then the next
it's one of the most important ones, really.
Of course,
I would say that because it's mine. All right, so that's
so words
and quality time. Touch. Touch is another big one for Andrea. She likes touch. She values physical touch. Nothing sexual. This is not about a sexual touch at all. So some people who are out there who might be thinking, oh, that's what this is about. No, not at all. This is just physical connection. So touch people love hugs. These are the people who love big bear hugs.
Yeah.
That you very rare. I don't think I've ever come across a touch person who will come up to you and just give you a what they call it, an ear kiss, just mwah, mwah, side to side,
or just a non-engaged pat,
pat or handshake or something like that. Touch people are into it, sort of full on into it. They'll give you a bear hug.
A fist bump, a high five, in the office where touch has to be appropriate. But some version, a pat on the shoulder, some version of appropriate touch is just what we touch people do
touch
naturally.
people do naturally, and they expect that. That's how they connect. So you could be talking to a touch person, and they will be, as you say, you're sitting next to them, like where well, you might not see this on the podcast here, but we are sitting in the same room side by side here. But they will be, they might tap you on the knee or the thigh or what have you,
Or the
or the
arm,
arm. It's just what they do in conversation.
very tactile.
Very tactile. And if you're not a touch person, that might confuse you, or it might throw you. You might think maybe this person is coming on to me or something. It's got nothing to do with that. It's just they're expressive and they speak with their hands a lot. And they might touch you as they're going. It's just what touch people do.
Yeah. And I remember one of the challenges we had early in our early in our relationship was as a touch person, we're walking along, I would naturally slip my hand in yours and, attempt to hold hands. And that made you really uncomfortable, didn't it?
Well, it did, because I think culturally for me, I'm not a touch person. So maybe the culture is, I wouldn't say it's an excuse, but it's certainly where I came from, and also not being a touch person as well. This was just alien to me.
Yeah.
For me, touch was something between couples that you kept to the bedroom.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be sort of walking down the road holding hands. That was just odd. Why would you do that? Was my take.
Yeah.
So
whereas for me, I would do it and be very unconscious about doing it until I feel you kind of pat my hand and then gently.
I'd say, okay, that's good. That's very nice. Okay, can we just maintain our distance?
And I would feel so rejected until I understood what was going on and understood how uncomfortable it made you feel.
Yeah. And in fairness, I've learned. I think I've grown a little bit in that area. I've learned a little bit of the touch. Well, certainly learned to show touch to you, because I know it's important to you.
Yeah.
But it's if you're not a touch person, touch can make you feel very uncomfortable. So for me, I'll give you an example with that. So on the touch front, so Andrea is because she's a touch person, she loves a massage. She could be there with a massage. She will tell you this massage hurts so good.
Yeah.
I'm like, how does that even possible?
Kneading through the
hurt hurt is bad. Hurt so good. It doesn't make any sense to me. But she'll be there going, oh, that's so good. Oh, no, not for me. For me,
I'd fall asleep.
She can fall asleep in a massage. Now, I can't even get my head around that. For me, anybody puts their hands within 12 inches, 6 inches of my body, I'm super alert. I'm aware that you're there. There's no world in which I'm going to fall asleep.
Yeah.
For me, I'm just I'm hypersensitive to touch in a different way.
Yeah.
It doesn't relax me. It puts me on high alert.
Yeah.
You're touching me now, and you're in my space. What are you doing? Is my reaction to touch. So very, very different responses.
And I learned that in kind of in the extreme, didn't I? We're presuming that one of your colleagues who we knew was open to a hug and went to hug him. And as it turns out, he's neurodivergent to the point where, getting into his physical space makes him so uncomfortable. And when I went to hug him, he just stiffened and stood with his hands beside him. And I thought, oh my goodness, I guess not everybody liked hugs. And it certainly had the opposite impact to what I thought it would have done. So I've had to learn to respect the fact that not everybody values touch, and the same with words, and get to know what communicates love and value to them, if that's a message I want to communicate, and not just default to being the proverbial Englishman on holiday, like in France, speaking more slowly and more loudly your own language when you're still speaking English. It's just not going to land if you're trying to speak French.
Yeah. We spoke at the beginning about the question, what do I want? I want warmth, and more warmth, less frustration in the relationship. How do I get that? One of the things I learned, that because Andrea enjoys and appreciates and values touch, if she's feeling frustrated, just putting my arms around her and giving her a hug.
You've learned my secret.
I've learned her secret. And I know what to do now. Just that can calm her down. Now, if she's really, really frustrated, then it doesn't work so easy. You kind of got to do several goes in it to get there.
Frustrated with you,
especially if you're frustrated with me,
but want it.
Yeah, and it can still help. So you got to approach it sensitively. Of course, you're not just going to go up and grab them and hope for the best. It doesn't work like that. But it can doing it can certainly have an impact. Yeah.
And that happened with our son when he was a baby at
just
started school, kindergarten, and we'd be on a long journey. We were at that time living about half an hour away from the school, and on a Friday evening when he just started school, he would be past it and just in tears, meltdown in the back of the car. And I remember just reaching my hand back and, I said, would you like to hold mommy's hand? And he was in the middle of sobbing and tears. And half of him would be like, no, I want to stay frustrated. But the other half was yes. And the minute he held on to my hand, you could almost feel the energy draining or the anger, frustration draining. And he'd just fall asleep just from touch.
Yeah.
So really, really powerful
Now,
when we get it right.
When we get it right, I was going to say the beauty of that one is we had an automatic car.
Yeah.
So it meant she could have
Yeah.
one hand back
Yeah,
there
it
holding
was-
him. And we wouldn't have to keep hand going backwards and forwards to the gear stick. That just wouldn't have worked.
Yeah.
But no, absolutely. So powerful to be able to just communicate that value of message, of value, of love and appreciation through the correct messaging, which was touch in that
Yeah.
situation there.
So we've done 3 words, quality time and touch. Next is acts of service, which is your other big one.
Absolutely.
And acts of service is something I had to get my head around because this is, some people say talk is cheap. Actions speak louder.
It's all about
than
the
words.
actions. Show me the actions.
That's what acts of service people.
Yeah.
That's basically their mantra for acts of service people. And it's not about doing anything out of obligation. That doesn't land well.
Correct.
It is sacrificially doing something out of love, something that they would have had to do that you choose to do on their behalf. So like with John, one of the things that you do is we're kind of traditional in this way. You take out the bins, but on an evening, if John was late or I knew he was going to be tired, so and I took the bins out, that would say to you, I thought about you and I did something for you.
You
and
knew I would come home, I'd be tired, I'd still go and do it, but hey, you've made my life a little bit easier. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, you thought of me and did something for me. So if somebody's in the office and they're an acts of service person and you see them working late, walking out, giving them a pat on the shoulder or saying, you got this, I believe in you, that's just annoying to an acts of service person. Yeah. Well, what would communicate value is rolling your sleeves up and saying, how can I help you get this done so you can get home earlier?
To an acts of service person, talk is cheap. Don't give me the words, don't give me the talk, show me.
Yeah.
Now the really interesting thing is we all assume that our way is the right way.
Yeah.
So I would say talk is cheap. Now for me, the assumption is that talk is cheap for you as well.
Yeah.
Whereas no, you're saying actually the words. Now, of course, there has to be some substance behind it. I can't just give you all talk and no action. You'll be like, what is that about?
Yeah.
But if I give you the words, you hear that and you value that and you expect that there's some action coming behind it. But for you, the words are really powerful. Whereas for me, the words, I'm not really interested in the words. I need to see it. I need to see it happen. Then I believe it. So
I remember that time with the car. This is a classic of thankfully understanding the power of love languages.
I do remember. Yes. All right, go on. You share.
It's an old car. The car wasn't worth that much. Laws changed around handheld, being hands-free to speak on the phone. And so I asked John to just get me a simple earpiece, something that would allow me to speak on the phone legally with hands-free. And I thought it was just going to be a simple, plug it in the ear, plug it in the phone.
A Bluetooth earpiece or something, yeah.
And John took the car away, and that wasn't anything surprising because you usually go to the garage and do MOTs and stuff. And when he came back, he said, I want to show you something in the car. And I went out there. There was a huge red ribbon across the dashboard and an all singing, all dancing in-car, audio system. And I thought, wow. So I was in two minds. The mind that if I didn't understand the love language, it could have gone really wrong, because in my head I was thinking this must have cost so much, probably more than the car's worth. So much more.
It looked better than it actually was.
So much more.
It was more than an earpiece, to be fair.
An earpiece. Yeah. Why did he spend that money? But because I understood this stuff, I realized this was John speaking love in his loudest language, where it was acts of service with bells and whistles on. And so we were able to enjoy the moment of me saying, me appreciating your gesture of love and kindness. And it was great.
It was your car. Really I wanted you to have something special. You could get in the car, you could have music, you could do all the things that you wanted to do in a nice way. So.
Absolutely. So that worked really well. So amazing. And then so that's acts of service. And, that's one of the examples of how getting it right is so important. And then the gifts is the fifth one.
The fifth and final one is gifts. Now, gifts is a really interesting language.
Yeah.
And it's not one that either of us got initially at all, because neither of us are gifts people. Yeah. So the gifts language, love language or appreciation language is it speaks loudly to people when they receive something physical. They receive a gift, and that makes them feel really special.
Yeah.
Now, we used to think that was just commercial, that what do you want to, that's not a proper appreciation language. You want, you want our own languages, what speak to us. But we've come across a number of people on our journey now. Maybe you want to share about some of them. A number of people on the journey where actually receiving a gift is the most important thing to them. It's what makes them feel special beyond measure.
Yeah. And it's the thought that counts. That's the thing that matters
Absolutely.
for gifts people. You thought of me and you did something about it, and you went and got something tangible for to show me love.
Yeah.
And it's not about money. This is something that we got really wrong, because for neither of us, gifts was in our blind spot. We didn't really appreciate the powerful love language that gifts
It's not a
is
commercial
for
thing at
some
all,
people.
no.
But it's not commercial. It's really about the thought. It could be as simple as picking a flower, or something that somebody really loves, like we go to a different country, get a fridge, get my teeth back in, a fridge magnet.
Yes.
Something really simple,
Yeah.
but it just communicates the message that you thought about them. And one of the ways we got this really wrong was with our daughter. Gifts has always been her love language, and when we look back, we can see the pattern of behavior where even when she went on school trips with just a little bit of pocket money, she'd always find a way to buy a sweet, or so, just thinking about each of us and bringing something back. And she would give us her shopping list, wouldn't she, like Christmas or birthday?
Yep.
But in our heads, we still wanted to do the surprise thing. So we'd get a few things from the list, but we'd get something that wasn't on the list, and couldn't understand why she got so frustrated, because for her, we're spending money on something that didn't really matter to her, and ignoring the very clear requests for things that communicate love and appreciation and so on to her. So yeah, that was a lot to learn.
Yeah. So those are the five.
Those are the five, with some examples, some stories.
Really important to understand them, and to understand that not everybody has the same one. I can't put it more simply than that, better than that. Don't assume that their language is your language. Learn their language. Interesting to know what yours is. Really interesting. And if you can help share that, maybe other people can make you feel the love. But if you want them to feel special and improve the quality in the relationship, make deposits into their emotional bank account, you have to learn what their language is and speak that.
Yeah.
So I guess the obvious question then is, how will I know what their language is? Well, there are really two ways that you know what somebody's appreciation or love language is. One, watch what they do.
Yeah.
Observe them, not in a creepy kind of a way, but watch what they do.
Yeah.
See what they do. See how they show appreciation to you.
Yeah.
Because they're speaking their language. Remember, everybody speaks their own. Everybody speaks their own mother tongue.
Yeah.
And what's the second one?
And the second one is watch what they complain about.
Watch what they complain about.
Listen to what they complain about. You never tell me I look nice, or you never spend any time with me. All those complaints are really big clues that that's what their love language is. That's what they appreciate the most.
Yeah. So really important to get those two right. Now, two things to be really mindful of here.
Yeah.
Because if you don't do this stuff, and you don't make those connections, make those deposits, there are two things that happen here. Well, firstly, you leave that person vulnerable to other people who are speaking their appreciation language or their love language. Because as people, we need that. We have deep intimacy needs.
Yeah.
And if you are their partner, well, let's move into a home context for a moment. We'll talk about work in a second. But in a home context, if you are not speaking people's appreciation language and somebody else is speaking that to them, what happens there is they're not getting what they need from you. And all of a sudden, somebody else out there is getting their attention. And before
just
long,
automatically
speaking their love language, they just happen to be doing that. They hear that, and all of a sudden, their head starts to turn towards that person, metaphorically, and they're hearing what they're saying and away from you.
Yeah.
And you can leave them vulnerable to attention from other people that can lead to a dark path, take them down, into extramarital affairs or whatever it happens to be, just relationships with other people, when those relationships could be with you, should be with you, perhaps.
Well, it's both in the home context.
I was going to say in the work context as well. Pick up on that.
Well, what's the favorite line that we like to say? People go
where they feel welcomed, but they stay where they feel valued.
And that's for both contexts,
both at home and at work.
Yeah.
And in a work context, if people aren't feeling valued, before long, they might get a call from a headhunter, they see an ad in a newspaper or something else, and the grass looks green on the other side,
or they
and
just feel
and they,
so.
they then turn up for an interview or something, and they're all welcomed. Hey, come on in, you look good, and they're flattered, etc. The grass looks like it really is going to be green on the other side, and they're off because the grass on this side is burnt and nobody's showing me any value. Why do I want to stick around?
Yeah, or just get so disillusioned that it really doesn't matter what they're going to next. Even if they don't have anything, they might just sign off emotionally, if not physically, in the current job.
So two things. I was going to say two things to really be mindful of. You want to talk about them with blind spots and well, so two things.
No.
Well, I've mentioned the blind spots. So with the blind spots, what that is we tend to miss other people's appreciation languages or love languages because we do not value them.
Yeah.
So for us, we've said this already.
Yeah,
gifts was in our blind spot. I just couldn't see how gifts could be as important to some people as quality time or acts of service are to me. It's like, no, that didn't compute in my brain. It's only when I started understanding gifts people more, I realized actually this stuff is as important to them. So when we say it's in your blind spot, you could miss it. So if somebody around you has an appreciation or a love language that really isn't yours, and you've just been speaking your own language to them and not theirs, they're left feeling unvalued, unloved, unappreciated because you're not speaking their language.
Yeah, absolutely.
What you are speaking is your language. So the other thing to watch out for is what we call black holes, because it really is you are throwing all your love and your appreciation, your value,
all your energy
down a black hole.
Space.
It literally is landing nowhere. It's water off a duck's back. Use whatever analogy you like to use, but you are pouring love and appreciation and value into a hole that is not going anywhere. It's not landing anywhere, and you're missing the point.
Yeah.
And you still leave them feeling unappreciated, unvalued, and vulnerable to somebody else who is speaking their language. So things to be really mindful of. Watch out for those.
And you'll find that the more you understand this, the more you start to understand why people have been getting frustrated or responding in a surprising way to you, not as appreciative of a gesture that you might have done, or getting really upset about something that you think is simple. A lot of the times it's misunderstood love languages at play, where you might be trying to communicate love in the way you know how, communicate appreciation the way you would like it best, and it's just not having the impact on the other person. Or they might be trying to communicate it to you and getting really frustrated that you're not understanding or you're not understanding them. And when you think about, family get-togethers, holiday seasons where you're spending more time around family, the more that you understand love languages, the more you can make the experience really great, more warmth and less frustration.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's where we started this conversation, wasn't it? If you want that warmth and you are feeling frustrated, just park your own frustrations for a moment and just think, actually, hang on, how can I help the other person get to a better place? Because if you can help them get to a better place, they're likely to respond better to you. Remember that two to tango thing we spoke about right at the beginning? If you can help them get to a better place, you're likely to reap the benefits of that down the road. So you want to start, as I say, be sacrificial if you can, but park your own emotions for a moment, but make deposits into their emotional bank account. And the great way to do that, or a fantastic way to do that, is learn their love or appreciation language, and don't stop there. Start speaking it. And speak it loudly. Practice it. Show them a value and appreciation in the way that means something to them, and you will, over time, start to receive to reap the benefits and receive a better response and a better reaction from them.
And the thing to remember is it will feel foreign, like learning a foreign language, but like you had to learn to hold hands and thankfully do it.
And to show words. And maybe I'm a sad, simple person, but because words didn't come naturally to me, I used to have to write it down, to make a note in my diary, say, remember to tell Andrea how much I love her, remember to tell her that she looks good or what have you, because I would think it, but it wouldn't come out of my mouth because it wasn't natural to me.
Well, because for you felt it would be patronizing me, and I'm like, patronize away, baby.
So I had to put little reminders to myself to actually do that, and hopefully I've got a little bit better at that over time. I can still always improve, but do what it takes to help build that muscle, to learn that habit of showing appreciation in a way that means something to them.
But it's like me with quality time, when you're off doing something, working on something, doing some DIY, for me, that's a good cue to go off and do something myself because you're busy. But I have to remind myself to make myself just be present in a way that I know you'd enjoy, depending on what you're doing, of course.
Absolutely.
Like, not if you're changing tires.
Yes. Well, hey, you can come and do that as well. That works for me as well. We can do it together. You can help me hold. Anyway, whatever.
So the point is,
spend that time.
It won't feel natural. We have to be intentional about speaking the other person's love language, if indeed we want to feed their emotional bank account and create more warmth in the relationship. So that's where we're going to end it for now. We encourage you to, of course, we want you to share all the podcasts, but definitely this one. Share it with your friends, your family, your loved ones, because the more people understand about love languages or appreciation languages, the more you can understand each other and build warmth in relationships. But while you're sharing it, like it, give us a review,
Absolutely.
a good one as well. Please.
Yes, well, we hope you've enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And clearly all that those activities of subscribing, following, liking make it more visible to other people out there, and other people can get to benefit from it.
Yeah,
and
share the love.
Share the love. Let's share the love. And if you would like also to go deeper with this, we expand on this in our book,
yes,
which is available on Amazon and all good booksellers out there,
stores.
The 4 Habits of All Successful Relationships. But we also take you through the love languages and the appreciation languages, and show you some more examples and how you can actually start to build some of these habits in practice in your relationships in our online course, which is out recently. In the brand new, refreshed and revitalized. We're now calling it Relationship Success Accelerator. You can find out about that in the show notes. We've got it on for a really special price at the moment.
Really special. Not going to last long.
Some crazy price, $49, I think, something like that. We've got it out there for, but it's a short online course that will take you through the steps of actually learning some of these habits on purpose, to put things into practice in your relationships, so you can actually start developing habits that will on purpose strengthen your relationship, rather than be doing things unintentionally that are damaging your relationship. So check that out if you'd like, as I say, in the show notes.
Yeah. And I think with that, it's a wrap.
With that, it's a wrap.
It's a wrap.
We're so glad you were able to join us for this episode. Hopefully you found it really impactful and powerful for you. As Andrea said, if you're in holiday season, or just generally at any time in life, if your relationships are feeling frustrating, challenged, think to yourself, what can I be doing to invest in the relationship to help the other person, support them, get them to a better place, because you then reap the rewards of that, and the relationship starts to get into a better and better place, and you move to more warmth and less frustration. So thanks for being with us, and we'll see you in the next episode.
See you next time.
Bye-bye for now.
We hope you enjoyed that episode. And if you did, and you want to hear more, the best thing to do is subscribe. Then you'll never miss an episode. There's a new one every Friday. You can stay connected with us on social media at The 4 Habits for updates, behind-the-scenes content, and to participate in discussions related to the show. We always love to hear from you. And of course, if you've enjoyed this podcast, please leave us a review on your preferred platform to allow us to reach more listeners and help people around the globe radically transform the way they do relationships, so they too can enjoy better harmony at home, thrive at work, and win at life.